What's up? If you're new here, welcome. I'm Chardonnay, and if you are a returning subscriber, some of you all are probably like, girl, where are you now? But basically, I just wrapped up filming another shoot, and I was like, you know what? Let me go ahead, sit down, and knock out another video. But for those of you who are new to my channel, to catch you all up to speed, at the beginning of this year, I decided to start sewing because a personal goal of mine was to figure out my personal style and be more intentional about getting dressed up outside of my typical special occasions and work from home wear and routine. I also wanted to start altering my clothes I already had. So it's more of a tailored and custom fit for my smaller petite frame. So I started sewing, and if you are a returning viewer, then you know I got really excited and I started buying a ton of patterns and fabric. And I have to be honest here. I one day looked up, especially after sewing a ton of projects for the first time this summer. Let's just say my home office and my craft room, it got out of hand. And I mentioned this to one of my friends, and she was like, you know, you do a really good job of making it seem like you're really organized and you have it all put together. But let me tell you, okay, sometimes the creative process gets a little messy, okay? It got to the point where things were getting so chaotic and out of the place that I kind of just started to close the door to my home office and my craft room so that way I didn't have to look at all the stuff and all the clutter that was going on in there. And I slowly started to move into my living room and just recording videos and working on my sewing projects. And then one day I was like, girl, we got to tackle this. We got to tackle this head on. You need to just go ahead and spruce up your space so that way you can actually get back to creating and not just let this thing kind of pile up and get out of hand. So, some type of system and process is going to have to go in place with this whole sewing thing. Otherwise, this is going to continue to get out of hand and messy real quick, okay? So that's what's been going on, and I'm going to be sharing with you all today how I currently plan and organize my sewing projects. So let me start by reiterating, I am not a professional, and I'm just sharing my approach to how I'm personally tackling my sewing projects. And these are ideas I've gathered from watching other sewists, movers, makers, and creators online. So if you have recommendations on how you organize and tackle your projects and organize your creative space, feel free to let me know in the comment section of this video. So one of the first ways that I decide to tackle my sewing projects, and some of you all have probably noticed, but I like to create mood boards and also use a sewing journal so I can get a big picture idea of what it is that I'm going to be working on. I'm a very, very visual and hands-on person. Like, it helps me really get an idea of what I'm doing and sort of my ideas and the projects I want to prioritize. And I think this has really been one of the things that has helped me to become more mindful and intentional about fabrics I'm buying, so I don't end up with a bunch of fabrics that I just think look cute, but have no idea what garment I want to make it with. You know how you might go online shopping and an outfit looks cute on the model, but it looks like who did it and why when you try it on? The same thing can happen with fabric. It might look cute on the shelf, but it doesn't look cute on your body or maybe for the particular project you chose to use it for. And the same fabrics just need to stay looking cute on the shelf in the store. I also got myself a sewing journal because that's what I like to do. I'm that type of person where I like to document, capture, and chronicle things. It started with podcasting and my profession in video, but now this is how I am capturing my wardrobe and sewing projects. Now, I'm not always good about sticking to my sewing journal, but when I do remember to sit down and jot down a few notes, I do. Also, if you're into zodiac signs, I'm a Cancer, and we are very, I don't know, nostalgic people. So that might be another reason why I'm into these types of things. So yeah, there's that. But anyway, I use my sewing journal so I can remember what went well and what didn't go so well when I worked on a specific sewing project. And to also jot down any specific tips or alterations I made while working on a pattern or working with a specific type of fabric and garment, so that way I can go back and reflect on my notes and figure out, how I should go about tackling my next project. The next thing that I have found helpful is batch cutting. I believe We Create Style, another sewing channel here on YouTube, mentioned it in one of her sewing videos. And I was like, you know what? That's actually a good idea, because for someone like me who is a very visual person, the part I like the least when it comes to sewing is cutting out the pattern pieces. So I figured if I cut out both the fabric and all the pattern pieces, then at least when it's time to sit down and get going to sew, I'm ready to go. If I plan to sew up a few different items for the season, I'll already be ahead of the game and ready to sit down and sew and just fully be immersed in the sewing process, and maybe do a little bit of mindless sewing. That's something that I really enjoy doing, especially given my profession where I'm constantly looking at a screen, editing, and I'm just very hands on with what I do, whether I'm filming, editing, and listening for audio and interviews, or making sure that the music aligns with whatever video I'm editing. It really helps for me to just kind of take that time to disconnect and do something as simple as sewing, to just kind of have that feeling where you get a sense of satisfaction for completing a project and something that's fun and enjoyable. I personally found that sewing can be very peaceful if you have an easy project that you're doing, and I'm less likely to get discouraged or distracted from finishing it, because I won't be completely worn out from cutting all the pieces and then going straight into stitching. I also batch cut because I'm more likely to stitch the fabric up in the pattern I originally purchased it for. Now listen, the longer the fabric sits there, there's a chance I might forget what project I bought the fabric for in the first place. So for me and what's going on over here, I'm cutting into the fabric as soon as I get it, and as soon as I get a chance to batch cut and figure out what my plan and process is for the season. And I'm doing my best to not even purchase or think about any additional fabric or patterns for the rest of the year unless I genuinely know what I want to make with it. Listen, it's a struggle, and if you sew, okay? But that's pretty much my take on batch cutting. The next thing I like to do, which is the biggest and I feel like the most game changer for me, is sorting and storing the cut fabric and patterns into these waterproof A4 size Polividia bags. I'm not really sure what they are, but they're these bags. I'll show them here on screen. Once I have all the pieces cut out, I store both the pattern, the instructions, the fabric, and the notions inside this bag. And this works well for me because as someone who batch cuts and has other projects going on in the background, especially working with video, I think that's the main reason why this summer things just kind of got all over the place, chaotic and cluttered, because I had digital products that were going on and then sewing products that were going on top of just like the normal day-to-day activities that go on within my home office and workspace. Things just started to get very yeah, you know how it is if you work from home, and especially if you are a creative, okay? So I like having these bags so that way I could easily batch cut all of my items and the patterns and the fabric. I can store them away, and I can easily label them and store them in a work in progress section of my office. So if I ever need to revisit a sewing project at a later time because maybe I got stuck on a certain step or forgot to purchase one of the notions or simply ran out of time, again, y'all know how it is when you sew. Sometimes you're just not able to finish a project in one sitting. And so this is how I've been able to store away my projects. One of the last things that I like to do to keep my sewing projects organized, and I think this might be pretty intuitive and self-explanatory, which is I have different bins and containers for storing my works in progress, my upcoming sewing projects, and bins to store my scrap fabrics and things of that nature in. Something I quickly realized when I decided to start sewing is I'm definitely going to need different bins, one for storing fabric, one for storing patterns, one for storing projects I start and press pause on, and then just bins for scraps. I'm personally one of those people, I don't like having a bunch of drawers and bins and containers in my home or workspace because usually when it's out of sight, it's out of mind, and you tend to just dump things in there. It really doesn't have any true structure or organization, and things can really pile up easily. However, I've been able to find a process and a system that works for me, where if I just have a bin labeled for a specific thing, I'm more likely to just only store those specific items inside that bin. Sewing is a fun hobby that I've got into this year, but it's also a hobby where you have to have a bit of organization and things put in place so you can thoroughly enjoy the experience. So that's all I have to share. Thanks for watching. Let me know if you have any advice for storing away your sewing tools and supplies, and I'll catch you all in my next video. Bye.